Now that we have this injunction in place, I guess I feel a little more at ease.
Tonight, lobster harvesters in Nova Scotia get an injunction to prevent more violence against them.
My initial reactions were one of hurt, but also anger and disgust.
A proposal to drop teachings about residential school for young school kids in Alberta comes under fire.
If we look at all the issues, we really need to get active in our civic responsibility and elect people who will do well by us.
And with elections in British Columbia and Saskatchewan next week, a social media group says people need to get out and vote. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. We begin with breaking news out of Caledonia tonight, where tensions are once again escalating. According to the OPP, a short while ago, police cruisers parked on Argyle Street were approached by Mackenzie Meadows protesters. The OPP says cruisers were heavily damaged as protest violence escalated. And for their safety, OPP say their members used non-lethal force in response. They say there are no injuries and an investigation is underway. Protesters say rubber bullets were fired and a taser was used. Earlier in the day, an Ontario Superior Court judge found 1492 Landback Lane Camp spokesperson Skylar Williams in contempt of a court order. They tossed out his evidence and made 2 injunctions permanent. Williams could be on the hook for as much as $20 million in damages. To southwestern Nova Scotia now, where an injunction has been posted at the checkpoints at Saulnerville Wharf, ordering the RCMP to do their job after a month of violence. So Sabaganagati lobster harvesters can exercise their treaty rights.
This injunction obtained by Sabaganagati First Nation is clear. No person can interfere with band members' fishing activity, nor block access to the Saulnerville Wharf, Weymouth Wharf, and the Lobster Pound at New Edinburgh, or harass, threaten, or intimidate. Any violations will result in an arrest. Sabaganagati community member Robert Siliboy, whose boat burned a few weeks ago, is cautious.
Now that we have this injunction in place, I guess I feel a little more at ease, but we've experienced a lot of empty words, and even with the court injunction, it's going to be hard to believe until we can see.
The violence started a month ago when Sabaganagati launched their moderate livelihood fishery, upheld by the Supreme Court of Canada in 1999, known as the Marshall Decision. The Mi'kmaq have a treaty right to hunt, fish, and gather to earn a moderate livelihood. Non-Indigenous fishermen say the lobster stock is at risk and have violently attacked the Mi'kmaq. Siliboy hopes the violence is over.
A lot of more smiles today than there was in the previous days, so I think people feel a little more sense of security now that we know that the law enforcement has to stand up and charge those accountable for breaking the law.
The interim injunction is in place until December 15th, and a hearing will be held if still required. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Saulnerville Wharf, Nova Scotia.
In Ottawa, a government committee on fisheries met Wednesday night to discuss the Mi'kmaq lobster crisis. The discussion explored conservation concerns and government inaction regarding Mi'kmaq fishing rights. Jamie Pashagumskum has more.
The commercial fishers say their main concern is simple: conservation.
It's never appropriate to fish in a lobster breeding ground during the closed season because of that. The lobsters are soft, shelled at that time, and really susceptible to damage.
Alison Bernard of the Mi'kmaq Rights Initiative says that's why they need a Mi'kmaq developed management plan.
We are nature's conservationists. We are the only life that they do have. As I respected the elder, Albert Marshall, who is a neighbor of mine, has always said, you have to speak on behalf of the species because they can't speak for themselves.
Shelley Denny is a researcher and marine doctoral student at Dalhousie University. She also says traditional Mi'kmaq knowledge is essential.
Let's take that opportunity to use shared values of governance to explore how they can coexist and employ innovation to address values that are unique to each perspective.
A common theme between all parties is the government's perceived inability to remedy the dispute. At one point, Liberal MP Jaime Batiste challenged Sproul on his interpretation of the Marshall decision, when Sproul said the Department of Fisheries has regulatory power over the Mi'kmaq, and the ensuing crisis is a result of that inaction.
And so, Colin, you feel that it's the government's fault, but we are seeing vigilante justice, the cuttings of traps. Do you think that's a right way to handle this situation? Do you condemn the cutting of traps and what has happened in that area?
I condemn violent acts of any kind, and as well as sending any kind of fishing equipment to the bottom of the ocean. I don't think any sustainability-minded fisherman would ever be advocating for something like that.
The witnesses said to resolve the dispute, trust must be restored in governance, competition between fisheries needs to be minimized, and people require more education on treaty rights. Jamie Pashigumskam, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, a handful of high-end restaurants in Montreal have committed to pulling lobster off their menus to show solidarity with the Mi'kmaq, something they only started doing after a Mohawk woman from Ganawage asked them to. Ganawage and Ganasatake both mobilized quickly in support of Mi'kmaq fishermen, even staging a rolling blockade over the weekend. But Ganarena Hawi Goodleaf wanted to take it a step further. Taking a cue from restaurants in Halifax, she asked several Montreal-based eateries to stop selling settler-caught lobster. Joe Beef chef David McMillan says all 5 of his restaurants stand in support. Chef Chuck Hughes is doing the same at his restaurant, Garde Manger.
To me, there's always a way to show some type of support, whether it's just sharing articles or even calling restaurants yourself to try to, get involved. I had a lot of people from my community message me saying that they were willing to help to call different restaurants too to get on board, so they could have, so there could be more people reaching out to different restaurants, and I thought that was really cool.
The chief of a Northwestern Ontario First Nation says the federal government must meet several demands before community members can return home. Earlier this week, Nishnawbe First Nation evacuated about 200 members after the water plant had to shut down due to an unknown substance found in the reservoir. Chief Chris Muñoz sent a letter today to Indigenous Services Minister Mark Miller calling on the federal government to address 7 demands, including running water must be available from taps on a 24-hour basis, and portable water treatment units must be installed in the community to address the ongoing water crisis. Nishnawbe has been on a long-term boil water advisory for 26 years, the longest in the country. Meanwhile, the issues in Nishnawbe reached the House of Commons today.
What's happening right now in the First Nation of Nishnawbe is an example, a representation of the abject failure of this government and of previous Conservative governments to address a basic question of access to drinking water. The people of this community are being evacuated. Seniors are being evacuated. Chief Muñoz describes the situation like this. He says, "Why is this not a public health emergency? Are we not important? Are we not human? When will the community get access to clean drinking water?"
This problem was not created in a day, and it's not going to be resolved in a day. But what I will say is this: our government has worked hard and has had some success. It's not enough, and I am very happy to recommit today to the effort to ensure all communities in Canada have water fit to drink.
Time to step aside for a quick break, but still to come, elections in Saskatchewan and BC have some pushing to get out the Indigenous vote.
Everyone is really excited about seeing other Indigenous people seeking office, and we want to support each other, again, regardless of what party. We're just really proud of each other.
Welcome back. During a time of so-called reconciliation, the province of Alberta is under fire after documents with proposals to change the school curriculum were leaked. Members of the Alberta Teachers Association say the recommendations are racist. Tamara Pimentel has the details.
My initial reactions were one of hurt, but also anger and disgust that our government was accepting recommendations from folks who clearly have racist values, beliefs, and attitudes towards Indigenous peoples.
Melissa Purcell, who is with the Alberta Teachers Association, is referring to these documents from the province. They recommend changes to the kindergarten to grade 4 fine arts and social studies curriculum that would eliminate references to residential schools. The documents were obtained by CBC. They state residential school education can be saved for later when learners are more mature and less emotionally vulnerable to traumatic material.
Advice is advice, it's not final.
Education Minister Adriana Lagrange addressed the documents at the Alberta Legislature and says no decisions have been made.
Well, we were elected on a platform that very much was committed to ensuring that our students have the foundational knowledge and skills to make them successful in their lives.
But Purcell says even a proposal is a big setback.
Our government made a commitment to enhance mandatory curriculum with regards to residential schools, but as well as treaty education from kindergarten to grade 12. So that commitment was made in 2014. We are committed to, responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's call to action. We know that teachers are using their professional judgment to find age-appropriate and developmentally appropriate ways to bring in this education and to talk about the truth from a way that really students can understand and engage in.
The minister says the documents are just from one member of a 17-person panel providing advice on a new curriculum. Recommendations from all panelists will be presented and a draft will be released to the public this coming January. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Calgary.
To election news now, in Saskatchewan will be holding their provincial elections coming Monday. And as APTN's Priscilla Wolf tells us, even with the pandemic, this year it's crucial people get out and vote.
With the provincial election coming up on October 26th, Indigenous voters are concerned about re-electing the same leadership, and they want people to pay attention to the issues of each party before voting. Nancy Gray says people shouldn't feel obligated to keep voting for the same party just because it's what you always have done.
People saying, oh, my family has voted Conservative or NDP all this time, or Liberal all this time, and who's actually been in there and who's actually done things, or so how do you figure that? And if you don't like the way things are run, why would you keep voting the same way? Doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome.
Gray says look at their track record before voting for them.
What did people say, or candidates, I guess, before the last election, and what have they done since, and are they visible? Are they accountable?
Priscilla Satie, professor of Indigenous Studies at the University of Saskatchewan, says Indigenous people must get out and vote.
If we look at all the issues, we really need to get active in our civic responsibility and elect people who will do well by us.
4 parties have candidates on next week's slate. They are the Saskatchewan Party, the Progressive Party of Saskatchewan, the Green Party, and the New Democratic Party. Voting takes place Monday, October 26th. Michael Boda, Chief Electoral Officer of Saskatchewan, says they are taking every measure to keep people safe during the voting process on Monday.
Voters will see a very different polling location this time around. We essentially have changed the processes so that we are able to spread out further. So there will be physical distancing that will be required. All of our workers will wear masks.
Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
This Saturday is voting day for BC's provincial election, and one social media group is trying to increase Indigenous voter turnout through education and information sharing. APTN's Lee Wilson has that story.
BC First Nations Rock the Vote is a Facebook group created in 2015. It is a place where Indigenous people can share information and discuss federal, provincial, and local elections. Michael Sasakamoose, a Cree, Okanagan, and Shuswap woman, joined the group when it started in hopes of helping others make informed decisions. The group is run by 4 volunteers, but consider it a community-led page.
Everyone shares information. Everyone participates in, conversations and debates sometimes about what we think or what's happening. And that's great, because that was all that we really wanted to do, was create a space for First Nations people in particular to be able to have those conversations and share that information with each other.
The group now has nearly 2,500 members engaging in sharing photos of their participation in elections. According to Sasakamoose, the group does not have party bias, but will encourage members to share information on Indigenous candidates.
Everyone is really excited about seeing other Indigenous people seeking office, and we want to support each other, again, regardless of what party. We're just really proud of each other and happy to see our own faces reflected back in the process.
General Voting Day in BC is this Saturday, October 24th, between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Final vote counts begin on November 6th. According to Elections BC, the count may take a longer time due to the increased numbers of mail-in votes due to the pandemic. BC First Nations Rock the Vote encourages people to make their votes count.
Regardless of who they support, that everyone gets out and votes, and that they recognize that, as Indigenous people in this country, we have a voice, and our ancestors fought really hard for us to be able to have the right to use that voice in these processes, because it wasn't that long ago that we weren't allowed to do that. And so I just really hope that people, are able to participate as a result.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Kitimat.
I'm sure we'll have election results for you on Monday. Time to step aside for a quick break now, but coming up, a new program to help feed those less fortunate in Winnipeg.
This is why we're so excited to have it in Winnipeg now, is because during COVID is the prime time to be providing this service.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And it's of the birthday boy. This photo of Louis Riel was sent to us from our very own camera guy, Jared Delorme. Taken at the Manitoba Legislature building, the statue is located on the south grounds and faces the Assiniboine River. Today would have been Riel's 176th birthday, and we have more on that coming up. And if you'd like to see your picture featured here, you can shoot us an email to share@aptn.ca, and we'll do our best to get them on the air. Now time to take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, showers, 19 for Halifax, 8 under partly cloudy skies in St. John's. A high of 2 in Nain and Cartwright. A rain-snow mix in 4 for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. 23, but with showers in Montreal, snow, and 3 in Chibougamau. 23 with rain in Toronto, a rainy day, and 21 for Ottawa. 2 and partly cloudy for Thunder Bay, snow, and -1 in Sioux Lookout. 4 below with snow for Churchill, flurries, and 2 below in God's Lake. -2 with snow for Winnipeg, 4 below and partly sunny in Brandon. -7 for Estevan, Regina, Swift Current, Saskatoon, and North Battleford. 3 below with snow in Uranium City. Picking back up in northern Alberta, 6 below with snow in Fort McMurray, -10 and flurries in Grand Prairie. 8 below with snow for Medicine Hat, 7 and snow in Edmonton. Rain for Vancouver with a high of 7, 8 with showers in Victoria. -6 in Fort Nelson, rain, and 5 below for Prince George. -10 in Old Crow and Beaver Creek, rain, and -8 in Whitehorse. Snow with 5 below in Yellowknife, -2 with snow for Norman Wells. -3 in a rain-snow mix for Sax Harbor, similar in Paulatuck, but 2 degrees cooler. -7 with snow in Baker Lake, Chesterfield, and Whale Cove. -16 and snow in Resolute. 10 below with flurries in Igloo Lake. A new food rescue program is underway in Winnipeg, and it's based off a successful program in Calgary. As our reporter Daryl Stranger tells us, the Leftovers Foundation takes food destined for the landfill and delivers it to local shelters.
Media were invited to an open house at Modern Coffee in Winnipeg. The coffee shop is the first official partner of the Leftovers Foundation in the city. The Leftovers Foundation reduces food waste by delivering excess edible food from stores and restaurants to local centers. The program was started in Calgary in 2012 and has made its way east after receiving federal funding.
We're actually the first project outside of Calgary because the ladies who started Leftovers in Calgary gained national funding this past year. So they're able to take it out of province now.
Food insecurity is an important issue any time of the year, but it's even more crucial now because of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is why Winnipeg coordinator Brandy Beaubier thinks now is a perfect time for this program to be introduced.
This is why we're so excited to have it in Winnipeg now, is because during COVID is the prime time to be providing this service. The service agencies that exist and that are providing food to people, whether it's family hampers or bag lunches, it needs to be increased tenfold because food insecurity is hitting every corner of our city right now. So because of COVID, people losing jobs, people working less, it's just become that much worse. And this is the prime time to do it.
The program relies on volunteers to deliver the food who sign up on the Leftovers app. Volunteers can view and accept routes from a grocery store or bakery to local centers and shelters. Mitch Bourbonnier has been an active member of Mama Bear Clan and numerous other organizations in Winnipeg for years. He says this program will help bring these organizations together.
We're just going to send out alerts when we know food is available all over the city. There's already kind of an informal structure here in Winnipeg. I know Bear Clan and OPK and a lot of the helping organizations have already tapped into like individual grocery stores that donate food. This is just going to formalize it and get us all working together.
Modern Coffee is the first of what's expected to be 8 donors to partner with the Leftovers Foundation. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Time now for a sneak peek of what's coming up on Nation to Nation tonight, right after the news.
Hello, I'm Todd Lamaran, and coming up on Nation to Nation, we speak to NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. One of the things he'll explain is why he characterized the harassment and vandalism Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq harvesters have faced as terrorism.
Burning someone's building and someone's place of work and their vans and physically intimidating and assaulting someone, those are all purposely done to make someone afraid, to terrorize somebody. And I can't imagine that happening to another community if they weren't Indigenous.
We'll have more of Jagmeet Singh immediately following tonight's newscast.
And Todd and the show are just moments away. That's your APTN National News for this Thursday. As we mentioned, today is Louis Riel's 176th birthday. The Manitoba Métis put together a number of vignettes to celebrate the occasion, and we'll leave you tonight with some of the sights and sounds from one of them. Enjoy. I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great night.